I always believed that people suffered alone in hell until I heard two voices screaming the same name. Their cries pulled me like a force I couldn't resist. When I reached the edge of a burning pit, I saw a man and a woman stretching out their hands toward each other, hands that almost touched, but never could. And before I could even breathe, a mighty voice thundered behind me. This is the pit of divorced couples. They can hear each other forever, but they will never reach each other again. I didn't know it then, but I was about to witness a horror that would change everything I believed about marriage. My name is Miriam Akoshua. I base in Ghana. As I stood at the edge of that cliff, the cries grew sharper, so sharp they felt like claws scratching the inside of my chest. I leaned forward, squinting into the dim glow below. The silhouettes shifted, rising and falling like shadows drowning in fire. Then suddenly, a scream tore through the canyon. Not just loud, raw, piercing, human. Michael! Michael! The name echoed through the burning pit, bouncing off the jagged walls. The woman's voice was filled with a kind of pain I had never heard before. Pain that came from regret so deep it refused to die. I froze. I wasn't just hearing sound. I was hearing agony. Then another voice rose from the opposite side of the pit. A man. His voice cracked as if every shout was ripping through his soul. Clara! Clara! Please, please don't leave me! Their screams collided in the air like two storms clashing. It was terrifying, but it was also heartbreaking. Their voices were desperate, reaching, begging, yet somehow they were not reaching each other. I found myself whispering, "What is this place?" As if answering my question, the ground beneath me shifted. The canyon walls trembled. The faint glow below grew brighter for a moment, revealing the shape of the pit more clearly. And then I saw them. A man and a woman, each standing on separate, narrow platforms of blackened rock. Both of them stretched out their hands toward each other, trembling, straining, fingers just inches apart. So close that the space between them looked like a thread. But there was something between them. I didn't see it at first. Then the light shifted and a thin, transparent wall shimmered between them, almost invisible, yet completely unbreakable. The woman slammed her palms against it, her face twisted in grief. "Michael, why did we do this?" she cried. "Why did we destroy what God joined?" Her words stabbed me like needles. The man pounded the barrier with both fists, shouting until his voice cracked. "Clara, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, just touch me. Just once." I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could only stand there, watching their torment. I didn't understand everything, but something inside me whispered, these two once belonged to each other, and now they can see each other, but can never reach each other again. My heart began to race. Fear wrapped around me like smoke. I wanted to turn away, anything to escape the sound of their suffering. But I couldn't. Something held me there, forcing me to see, forcing me to hear. The woman suddenly stopped screaming. Her shoulders shook as she whispered, "I forgave you long ago, but it's too late now." The man sank to his knees. "Clara, please." His voice broke. "I still hear you. I still see you. Why can't I reach you?" His question echoed through the canyon. It felt too painful, too intimate, too sacred to witness. I covered my mouth with both hands, trembling. What kind of place allows two souls to suffer together but remain separated? I whispered to myself. Why would anyone be punished like this? No answer came. Only their screams, only their regret, only their shattered longing filling the air like smoke. And in that moment I realized something terrifying. I hadn't even reached the deepest part of this place. This was only the beginning. My journey began on an ordinary afternoon. So ordinary that nothing about it felt spiritual. I was in my kitchen preparing lunch for my children. The smell of stew filled the room. I remember humming softly, thinking about the errands I needed to run. Then the pain came. Sharp, sudden, violent. It felt as if something inside my chest snapped. The spoon fell from my hand. My legs turned weak, trembling like soaked paper. I tried to call out, but my voice collapsed into silence. My vision dimmed until everything became a swirling fog. I felt my body falling, but I never felt the floor, because I had already left it. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing, not lying, not kneeling, standing upright in a strange world, swallowed by darkness. There were no walls, no sky, no ground I could clearly identify, just an endless void stretching in every direction like a universe that had forgotten how to exist. But the silence was the first thing that terrified me. A silence so thick it felt alive. A silence that carried sorrow, fear, and separation. A cold wind brushed against me. Not earthly cold, a spiritual cold that pierced through my soul. I wrapped my arms around my body and whispered, "Where am I?" I didn't expect an answer, but then I heard it. "Your journey has not ended. It is being revealed to you." The voice came from everywhere at once, above me, behind me, inside me. A voice full of authority, yet gentle enough not to crush me. It wasn't human, it wasn't angelic. It was something beyond my understanding. The ground beneath my feet trembled, and suddenly, like something emerging from beneath the earth, a long path of glowing red stone stretched out before me, jagged, uneven, alive. My feet moved on their own. With each step, the air grew hotter. The heat wrapped around me like invisible fire. Sweat ran down my face but dried instantly under the scorching atmosphere. As I walked deeper, the darkness peeled back, revealing massive cliffs rising on both sides. Towering walls of scorched stone, cracked as if judgment itself had carved them. That's when I heard it, a sound drifting through the canyon, a sound that didn't belong in any world God created. Crying, not a crowd, not a creature, just two voices, a man and a woman, crying out in the same rhythm, the same agony, their pain intertwined as if their souls were chained together. The sound pierced me. It felt familiar, too familiar. I stopped walking. My knees trembled. Every part of me wanted to turn back, but I couldn't. Something pulled me forward. I stepped to the edge of the cliff, and that was when I saw the faint glow far below. A light flickering like dying embers. Two silhouettes moved inside it, stretching, reaching, trembling. Their screams rose again, louder, sharper, more desperate than before. I didn't know it yet, but I had taken my first step toward the pit of divorced couples. I stood frozen, watching the two souls scream for each other across that invisible barrier, my heart shaking inside my chest. Their cries echoed like thunder inside the canyon, but suddenly everything shifted. The air changed. The heat paused. The ground softened. The darkness bent back as if something powerful entered the realm. I felt it before I saw him. A presence, pure, overwhelming, limitless, approached from behind me. It felt like standing between fear and comfort at the same time. A wind moved past me, gentle but strong enough to make the rocks tremble. Then a light appeared beside me. Not a light like fire, not like the glow from below, but a light that had a voice, a warmth, a mind, a heart. I knew that presence. My soul knew him before my eyes did. I turned slowly, and there he was, Jesus, but not as I imagined him on earth. His face shone with a radiance that made the darkness retreat in surrender. His eyes carried oceans of mercy and mountains of judgment all at once. His robe glowed with purity so intense that the ground softened under his feet. I fell to my knees without thinking. Tears filled my eyes. "Lord," I whispered, my voice shaking. What is this place?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked down into the pit where the man and woman cried for each other. His expression, his expression, was filled with sorrow deeper than any human grief. Finally, he spoke. His voice was calm, yet it carried power that shook the canyon walls. "This is the pit where broken covenants cry." My heart stopped for a moment. I blinked, trembling. "Broken covenants?" I whispered. Jesus nodded slowly, still gazing into the pit. "These are couples who destroyed the union I made between them," he said. "They separated what heaven joined. And now the bond they broke stands between them as a wall they can no longer cross." I stared into the pit again. The man was still pounding the invisible barrier, his hands glowing with pain. The woman was sobbing violently, her body shaking as she whispered prayers that could no longer reach heaven. Lord, my voice broke. Why can they see each other? Why can they hear each other? If they are separated in judgment, why are they still so close? Jesus turned his eyes to me, eyes that saw every hidden thought inside me. Because they chose separation, he said, but their souls never stopped recognizing the covenant they destroyed. Those words cut deeper than any sword. He continued, on earth, divorce may feel like freedom, but here it becomes the very prison they built with their own hands. I covered my mouth in shock. The heat of the pit rose again, lifting the screams upward. The woman shouted, Michael, I can see you. Why can't I touch you? The man cried back, Clara, forgive me. Please forgive me. Jesus raised one hand. The canyon fell silent, their screams muted by his authority. Then he looked at me again. Their souls remember unity, he said softly. But the covenant they broke now stands as the eternal wall between them. I felt my knees weaken. The horror of their suffering wasn't just the flames, it wasn't the darkness, it wasn't even the punishment. The true torment was this. They were close enough to hear each other forever, but separated enough to never touch again. Jesus placed his hand gently on my shoulder. The moment he touched me, strength entered my body, but my soul trembled like a leaf in the wind. Lord, I whispered, why are you showing me this? He looked into the pit again, his eyes filled with grief. Because many marriages on earth are dying, and he said, and people do not understand what covenant means. The air tightened around us, as if the whole canyon was listening. You must tell them. And just like that, the screams returned, louder, sharper, echoing endlessly through the pit. I knew this was only the beginning. Jesus stood beside me as the screams rose again from the pit. The heat intensified, wrapping around my skin like invisible flames. My heart hammered in my chest. I wanted to look away, but something in his presence held me steady. Then he pointed toward the pit. Look closely, he said. What you see as one place is divided into 3 sections. I blinked. I didn't understand, but slowly the light from his presence spread downward, revealing levels in the pit I hadn't noticed before. 3 distinct layers, each filled with souls, each filled with cries. And Jesus began to explain. The first group, those who divorced out of pride. He gestured to the upper level. I saw souls standing on cracked platforms, separated from their former spouses by the same invisible barrier. But these ones were different. They weren't screaming names. They weren't calling apologies. They were pounding the barrier with fury, as if still arguing, still fighting, still refusing to let go of the bitterness that destroyed their marriages. Their faces twisted in anger. Their voices rose in rage, not sorrow. Jesus said, these are those who ended their marriages because of pride. Their hearts refuse humility, so their souls now echo that pride forever. I watched a woman shaking her fist at the man on the other side. You never listened, she screamed. You never valued me. The man shouted back, you never respected me. They weren't reaching for each other. They were attacking, just as they did on earth. Jesus sighed, a sound that carried the grief of heaven. Pride blinded them, he said, and now pride chains them. The second group, those who divorced to remarry. Jesus led me with his eyes to the second level. This group was worse, much worse. I saw souls whose figures were twisted, bound to dark, shadowy shapes that clung to their bodies like chains. Some looked like distorted faces, others like monstrous silhouettes. I gasped. What are those things holding them? Jesus answered gently, these are the souls of those who divorced just to marry someone else. The partners they chose outside my covenant became their spiritual chains. I watched a man trying to reach his former wife through the barrier, but every time he stretched his hand forward, a shadowy figure pulled him back, wrapping around him like a serpent. The woman screamed his name, but he couldn't move freely. He was trapped between 2 torments, the longing for the wife he abandoned and the spiritual bonds of the relationship he chose in rebellion. Jesus said, they broke the covenant to satisfy desire. Now desire binds them without mercy. I felt chills run down my spine. The third group, those who divorced in their heart first. Then Jesus pointed to the lowest level. This level was the quietest. The souls here didn't scream loudly. Their agony was different, silent, suffocating, haunting. I saw husbands and wives sitting far apart, their faces buried in their hands, shaking with grief that seemed too heavy to lift. None of them touched the barrier. None of them called each other's names. They stared at each other with a sorrow so deep it felt endless. Jesus spoke softly. These divorced long before they ended their marriage. Their hearts left each other before their bodies did. He continued, heaven judges the heart before the papers. I swallowed hard, tears blurring my vision. These souls had lived together physically, but spiritually they had abandoned each other years ago. Their punishment wasn't fiery rage or violent regret. It was the torment of knowing they had allowed their hearts to drift apart until the bond died. Jesus concluded, this level is the most silent, because this is where the forgotten I love you becomes a wound. As I looked at all three groups, the prideful, the adulterous, the heart-separated, the truth hit me like a blow. Divorce doesn't begin in the courtroom. It begins in the heart. Jesus turned to me. Now you understand, he said. Tell them what you saw. I trembled. This revelation wasn't the end. It was only preparing me for what came next. Jesus' words still echoed in my spirit as I stared into the three levels of the pit. Each group carried a different kind of agony, but nothing prepared me for what I was about to see next. Because suddenly, the entire pit stirred. The ground shook beneath my feet, and a wave of heat surged upward like the breath of a blazing furnace. The screams shifted, growing harsher, louder, more desperate. Something was happening. Jesus raised his hand gently, as if allowing me to witness the next revelation. Watch, he said softly. I gripped my chest, my knees weakened, and then I saw it. On the second level of the pit, just slightly above the deepest layer, I saw a man collapse to his knees, crying the name of a woman with a sorrow so violent it made my heart shatter. He wasn't angry like the first group. He wasn't bound by shadowy chains like the adulterous group, and he wasn't silently grieving like the third. He was broken, completely broken. His wife stood on the opposite platform, slamming her fists against the invisible barrier until her skin peeled and bled fire. Daniel, she screamed. Daniel, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Her voice cracked through the flames. The man reached out, trembling so violently that his whole body shook. Mercy, please, Mercy, don't cry. Please don't cry. Her name, Mercy, sounded like a prayer. Every part of me trembled as I watched them. This couple wasn't angry. They weren't bitter. They weren't resentful. They still loved each other. Deeply, painfully, desperately, but they were eternally separated by the covenant they shattered. I whispered, Lord, what happened to them? Jesus' gaze lowered, his voice became quiet, too quiet. They divorced out of exhaustion, he said, a marriage worn down by years of hurt, misunderstandings, and silence. Neither remarried, neither hated the other. They simply gave up. He paused. And now their regret is louder than their love. My heart broke, literally broke. The man suddenly threw himself against the barrier, slamming his entire body with force I didn't think a soul could produce. Sparks flew, the flames below roared, his hands burned, his skin split, but he still reached. Mercy, he shouted, I forgive you. All of it, everything. The woman fell to the ground, sobbing so violently she could barely breathe. Daniel, I never wanted to lose you. I just didn't know how to stay. Their fingertips were barely 2 inches apart. 2 inches. But it might as well have been 1,000 miles. I covered my mouth, tears pouring down my face. I wasn't just watching their suffering. I was feeling it. The longing, the regret, the wasted years, the apology that came too late, and the eternal distance between two souls who once shared the same home, the same table, the same bed, the same vows. Jesus spoke again. On earth, they thought distance would give them peace. Here, distance becomes their torment. His words sank deep into my spirit like stones. Suddenly, the woman rose to her feet. She pressed her palms against the invisible wall so hard I could see her spiritual bones glowing beneath her skin. Daniel, touch me, she screamed. Just one time, please, just one time. The man did the same. Their hands aligned perfectly, palm to palm, finger to finger, heart to heart. But they could not touch. Not now. Not ever. A wail erupted from both of them, a sound so unbearable, so heart-wrenching, so spiritually violent that the entire pit trembled with it. I fell forward onto my hands, screaming without even realizing it. God, please, please help them. But nothing changed, because their punishment wasn't fire. It wasn't demons. It wasn't chains. Their punishment was eternal almost. Always seeing, always hearing, always reaching, never touching. Jesus knelt beside me and placed his hand on my back. Now you understand the weight of covenant, he said softly. I sobbed into my hands, because I knew. I had just witnessed the single worst moment in the pit. I could barely breathe. The screams from the pit still echoed in my ears, the man and woman's fingertips almost touching, yet never able to meet. My chest felt like it would burst from the sorrow of their longing, and then I felt his presence beside me, the warmth, the weight, the authority. Jesus. He knelt and placed his hand on my shoulder. I trembled under it. Do you see, my child? He asked softly. Do you understand what breaks marriages and brings souls to this place? I shook my head, unable to speak. The images of the pit, the cries, the invisible wall, all replayed in my mind. Jesus' voice grew firmer, echoing through the canyon. It begins with the heart. I watched in horror as visions appeared before me. Couples arguing in their homes, angry words, cold silences, nights spent sleeping apart, moments of pride, stubbornness, and unforgiveness. I saw spouses turning away instead of reaching out, choosing their own comfort over the covenant. Small choices, he said, when repeated, become chains, chains that bind on earth and in eternity. He showed me men and women giving up, choosing to separate for convenience, for anger, for selfish desire. Some divorced to marry another, some divorced because they allowed bitterness to fester, and some they divorced in their hearts long before the ceremony ended. Do you see now? He asked. Divorce is never a simple ending. It is the harvest of neglect, pride, and disobedience. And every covenant broken, every vow ignored, leaves a mark in the spirit. Tears burned my eyes. Lord, is there no mercy? I whispered. He looked at me with eyes that both wept and commanded. Mercy is given to those who fight for it. Many do not fight. Many give up when I intended restoration. Then he placed his hand firmly on my shoulder. You must tell them what you have seen. Tell the living what it costs to break what I join. Do not hide this vision. Do not soften the truth. This is why marriages must be fought for, preserved, and protected. I trembled, the weight of his words sinking into my bones. My spirit ached with sorrow for those trapped in the pit. I will tell them, Lord, I whispered. Remember this, he said, his voice cutting through the echoes of the screams below. What you see here is not punishment without reason. It is the consequence of choices. A covenant on earth is eternal in spirit. Break it lightly, and you will suffer greatly. Honor it, and you will find life everlasting. The wind shifted. The pit seemed to recede in the distance. My body felt weightless, drawn upward. A bright light surrounded me, and the cries of the pit softened, becoming distant echoes. I knew then I was returning to the world of the living, but I could never forget what I had seen. Jesus' voice followed me as I rose. Go, tell them, fight for the covenant while there is time. And just like that, my vision began to fade. The darkness and the fire, the screams and the invisible walls all melted into light, until I woke gasping in my own bed, my heart still pounding, my soul forever changed. I woke gasping, my body trembling as though I had been pulled from a fire. The memory of the pit, the screams, the invisible walls, the hands almost touching, clung to my soul like smoke I could not shake. Every heartbeat reminded me of what I had witnessed. I was alive, yes, but my spirit carried the weight of eternity. I sat on my bed, trembling, and whispered to the Lord, why did you show me this? And even though I couldn't see him, I felt his presence surround me, comforting yet piercing. A still, small voice whispered in my heart, because many have forgotten the weight of covenant. Many have treated marriage lightly, as if it were just an agreement on paper. Show them the truth. Warn them before it is too late. Tears ran down my cheeks as I remembered the couple, so close yet eternally apart. The sorrow in their eyes, the pleading in their voices, the desperate almost touch that could never be. I shivered at the thought. I realized then that this vision was not just a warning for me, it was a warning for everyone. Marriage is more than love or affection. It is a covenant, sacred and eternal. It is a spiritual bond that heaven honors and hell marks when broken. I thought of the prideful couples, screaming in rage. I thought of the ones who divorced to chase worldly desire, bound to shadows they chose themselves. I thought of those who abandoned each other in heart before they left physically. And I thought of the couple who still loved each other, whose hands could almost touch, only to be separated forever by choices they could have undone. How many of us are ignoring the covenant God gave us? How many of us are sleeping in bitterness, walking in pride, or giving up because it is easier than forgiving? I felt the Lord's voice again, firm and gentle at the same time. Fight for your marriage while you can. Forgive. Humble yourself. Protect what I have joined. Every choice you make echoes in eternity. Every careless word, every refusal to reconcile, leaves a scar your soul will remember. I could still hear the faint echoes of the pit in my spirit, the cries, the almost touch, the eternal separation. And I knew the horror I had seen would never leave me. I raised my voice now, trembling but certain. Do not take the covenant lightly. Do not ignore the love God gave you. Do not let pride, anger, or desire destroy what heaven has joined, because one day you may see it too, not in this life, but in eternity. And then it will be too late to reach across the walls you built. I speak these words not to frighten you, but to awaken you. Fight for your marriage. Guard it. Treasure it. Honor it. The pit is real. The separation is eternal. The choice is yours.